Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so in this video, I just want to take some time to encourage you to do what the Lord is calling you to do. Sometimes the Lord speaks to us, and we may choose to listen, but we may choose to listen at the time when we feel like, okay, at the time that we want to listen, whether it may be at a time when we are no longer afraid, or at a time when we feel is the right time. But I want to share a testimony with you, and I hope that after this testimony that you really decide to do what the Lord is telling you to do, regardless of how fearful you may feel at the time. I studied business. It was not really what I intended to study, because sometimes we that's the whole story by itself. But I'm a business student, and so I always wanted to study projects. And I always felt like I never had enough money to do it, so I just decided, you know what? So I always kept pushing back that desire and pushing it, but then that desire would never leave me alone. Until one year, I spoke with the consultant, and she was encouraging me to go ahead to do it. Finally, I did it. Now I'm just trying to make the long story short. And then I finally go ahead. They decided to pursue the certification in projects. And what had happened was that she asked me to come into the class. So she told me, you know what? If you are interested, you can come into the class, and then if it feels like something that you're not really interested in, then after a while, then you can drop off. But I was praying to God about it a lot, considering the fact that previous to that, I already did some studies in project administration, so my studies was already along the line of project management. But my desire was really to study project management, and there, what I wanted was right before me, and I was still so fearful to go ahead and to pursue that study because of finances. And then I told her, well, okay, so then I attended the class, and I knew in my heart that I was not going to leave. So, so I attended the class, and then lo and behold, as I expected, and I felt in my spirit that I decided to just continue on. Be okay. So I decided to um, attend the class, and then I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna stay. I didn't know how I was going to cover the cost of the class, and it wasn't even that much, but it was outside the range of what I could afford at the time. It was a lot. It was definitely outside of my comfort zone, and the pressure was on. But however, I still decided to go ahead and pursue it. I attended classes, evening classes, and it was just a lot for me to take on at that time in my life. But the reason why that I decided to take the class, even if I didn't know how I would be able to afford the payment of the class, I really thought things through. I'm like, you know what, my son is in a lower class at this time. It's better if I take the class now than when he goes to a higher grade, and it's gonna be a lot more pressure, because I mean, the higher he goes, the more information and the more work and time that I would have to give to him, plus my studies. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to go ahead and pursue the program. Um, but during the program, I mean, the Lord had already spoken to me. It was prophesied that I would have received a scholarship, and then there I was. When I went into the classroom, I told the consultant my situation. She worked with me. She gave me a payment plan. Now, the thing about the payment plan, yes, the payment plan was okay, but considering how much money that I was being paid, I literally decided that I was gonna take a leap of faith. So I'm like, God, you called me to this, and I'm gonna trust in you. So the amount of money that I used for bus fare and some other expenses, I I withheld that. So I took money from that portion to put towards my studies, and I'm like, every month for so I the payment plan was for 3 months. So for 3 months, I called it 365 days. $365 was how much I had to pay towards my studies, towards my future goal. And I sacrificed that, and I trusted God throughout the month. Now, this is where, I mean, I just saw the Lord work for me throughout that particular time period. I think it was just about 3 months or so the study period was for. So during that time period of 3 months, when I took out money that I would normally need for bus fare and other expenses, I transferred that money to my studies, and I trusted God. I'm like, God, I'm gonna trust you. Now I'm gonna trust that you're gonna come through for me. I don't know how I'm gonna pay bus to get to work and to take my son to school and for the other stuff that I needed, but I'm gonna trust in you and I'm gonna see you work. Now the amazing thing was that there was never a time within that time period that I was studying did I lose anything. It's like nothing really changed. So I was able to go to work. I was able to pay bus. Finance was never an issue. So that was a second sign for me. So the first sign was that I got a payment plan. Also, I did not mention, also I did get a partial scholarship. So she gave me a partial scholarship so that I would not, so, well, the amount that I would have to pay reduced significantly. So I got a partial scholarship, a payment plan, and then also financial lessons from the Lord, that I did not have to worry about money, because I don't know, the money, like God just worked it out. I was not short. I always had money, and I was like so amazed at how the Lord worked in my finance during that period of my studies, when I decided to take a leap of faith and just jump into what I knew and I felt within my spirit that He was calling me to. So I went, no, I am one of, no, I was up against, I don't want to say up against, but in the class, there were persons who were already working in the field of project management, in IT and in construction and different fields. So they were already preview to how is it to work within a project management field. Now, I am a rookie coming in the class, and I'm like, I don't have the experience. Yes, I have some book knowledge, but I didn't have the experience that they had. But I mean, I saw God worked through my life for that class. He opened up my understanding for me to not only understand the bulk of information during the time, because again, it's a project management certification program that I was doing. So it was a lot, and it was a lot for the period of time that I was working with and in. But God, He opened up my understanding so I could understand things quickly, that I could also remember stuff. It was a lot of information. And to make a long story short, I saw the Lord work in my life. I ended up being the top student for the class. I don't know how that happened, but I know that it was God. And I know that when God is involved in something, that his manifestation of His power is going to be shown and exposed, so other people can marvel and be like, how did she do this and she doesn't have this? And it was all God. It was all God, all over my life, for the finances, for the scholarship, through the studies. It was a lot of information, a lot of stuff that I had to learn and cram. Well, cram, but I did not cram. I chose not to, because I wanted to understand the content and then prepare myself for the final exam. Now, this is where I began to lose a little faith. Now, after the program ended, which was about like three and a half months, so our consultant encouraged us to study and to prepare ourselves. Do not let it lapse, because obviously the more you let something lapse, the less you forget it. You lose interest, and you no longer, or you keep pushing it back. And then she really encouraged us to make a sacrifice. We started it already. Let's push through, do the exam, and finish, because the content is already fresh. Yes, we may have to go back and study and prepare for the exam and all of that. And CAPM, actually PMI, they gave some really good instructions as to how to prepare for the CAPM exam, and or the PMI exam, or whatever exam, or PMP I should say exam, whatever exam that you are sitting. And it was a lot. Now, considering the fact that when I first took this program, I did not have any money extra really. So I was very much nervous as to what should I do now. Should I pause to save up money because the exam costed like about 1,002 or so for me to do the exam, and it was a lot, and I was very fearful. So fear began to creep in, and then my consultant was constantly encouraging me to go ahead, make a sacrifice, do the exam. And I kept saying like, how would she expect me to make a sacrifice and I don't have money? Like it doesn't make sense. Like I don't have the finance to do that. Like I'm like, is she gonna give me the finance to register for the exam and to sit my exam? Because at the time, even if I studied, I didn't have the money. But then that was where my faith was weak. And I should have been preparing, because if you're walking by faith, and that's what God is calling us to do, to walk by faith and not by sight, then we should not be concerned about where the money is going to come from or how it's going to work out. He's just asking us to just trust in him. Do we trust that he's a God who's going to provide? I mean, he took me that far. Why did I lose faith? Why? So that there were distractions along the way, and I, instead of trusting in God, I began to put my trust in man, and that's where I failed. So I'm preparing. I got promised that somebody would have helped me to finance that exam. And then I began to put my trust in the individual instead of God. What I should have done is continue to save the money that I have, as I work, continue to save money, put aside, and continue to study and prepare myself for the final exam. I did not do that. So that was a definite failure, and I learned that. And I thank God for that experience, and every experience that we can learn from. We should always be grateful and learn from it, and then grasp what we need to grasp from it and move on, apply it into our life, and be a better person. So for 4 months, I was so I was so disheartened, because I really wanted to just go ahead, as she encouraged us to do, to study, don't let it lapse, and do the exam, because the content is already fresh in our system. But I did not do that, and I kept on being upset and blaming God. And God, where are you? When all along, he just wanted me to continue to trust him and not put my trust in man, because trust in man will fail us. And that's exactly what happened. So come, let's say that was about like September 2019 to December 2019, I did nothing. I didn't walk by faith. I didn't trust God. Well, I wouldn't say I was complaining, but I was just stressed and just doubtful. And then come 2020, we always make resolutions for New Year. So come 2020, not knowing that Corona was gonna come around, not knowing the big surprise of what was happening, that was gonna hit the entire world. I'm like, okay, so I decided in January of 2020 to begin to study, because my goal was to do that exam and finish with it. So I decided to save. I was gonna save $500 from my paycheck, and then to add up to the 1,002 that I needed to pay off my exam. So that was what I did. I pushed myself again. I said, God, you did it already for me, so I'm gonna trust you again this time, and I'm gonna save even more. So I was putting more in the hands of God. I'm saying, God's like I always say, God, all of my eggs are in your baskets. So I just decided to just put that there in God's hand. I'm saying, God, now I'm gonna trust that you're gonna come through. And again, I saved. Now, before I was saving $365, this time I decided to just push, because I really wanted to save up the money so I could do the exam and just be done with it. So I saved $500, and then bam, 1 month. Then the other month I saved another $500. So I was like $1,000. And then the Lord placed in my heart to also ask my parents. Lord knows I don't really like to ask people for help unless if I really need the help. And I don't like to be a burden to people. So, however, after battling that spirit of pride, I decided to go ahead and speak to my parents as the Lord led me. And then they too gave me money much more than I expected. So I had I had a lot more money than what I planned out to have to cover. It was enough to cover for my exams. So with that money, I purchased material for me to study, and then the rest I used to pay for my exams and whatever else to cover exam costs. And I mean, it was just amazing because you see, again, walking the obedience of God, because I didn't know that I was gonna get that financial blessing from my parents towards my exam. Had I just decided, oh, I'm not gonna ask my parents because I'm so prideful, then I would have never received a blessing from the Lord. You see, that's why it's so important that when the Lord speaks to us, we have to walk in the obedience of God, because His blessings are there is no sorrow in His blessings. So that blessing was already placed there for me, and I didn't even know that. And all I had to do was to just walk in the obedience of God, and then I just saw Him just bless me like that. So I had the money from my exams covered. All I had to do now was to study. Now, all of a sudden, now we are under lockdown. So that's in 2020, and I'm like terrified. A spirit of fear took over because everyone was like, oh my god, what is this about? What is this sickness about? What is this virus about? And like there was like a real spirit of fear terrorizing people, whether you were Christians or not. It was just like the spirit of fear was just there. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like, so I'm like questioning the purpose of God. I'm like, God took me that far, and I'm like questioning God, like, are you really sure that I should study? I don't even know what's gonna happen. I don't even know if I'm gonna live to see another day. So I became really, really terrified. And I'm like, this seems pointless. Like, I don't want to study anymore. I just want to this world is gonna come to an end. Really? Like, so that's how like I was thinking. Like my mind was like all over the place, and it was unsettled until I had to get my act in order, spend time in the Word of God, and refocus my mind, my spiritual mind, and so that I can get back on track. And then, the Lord ministered to me. I felt better, and then I was just like, okay, it's time for me to get on track. So the Lord gave me wisdom, and then He was like, you know what? Right now, you're on the lockdown, you're not really working. Use the quiet time to study. So during that time, I worked at a school as admin, and during that time, I mean, well, the schools were all shut down, everything shut down. So I had time on my hands. So like the Lord blessed me with time to study. The Lord is so gracious to me that He blessed me with the time that I needed to study. So the Lord was like, okay, so you know what? Use the time that I'm giving you now to study, because when things get back on track, you're not going to be able to have that amount of time to study. So I used to work 3 times a week at the office, and then I would be home for 2 other days. So during my off days, I would wake up early in the morning. So I made a sacrifice. So the Lord was like, sacrifice. And I did not mention that earlier, but my consultant was always telling me, sacrifice, make the sacrifice, you're gonna pass. Sacrifice, you're a good student, you were the top student. Sacrifice, make the sacrifice. I'm asking God, I'm crying out to God, God, what is she saying? Like, sacrifice, what? Like, I have been sacrificing, I did sacrifice, but I didn't quite understand what the Lord was telling me to do to make the sacrifice. And that was when, in the month of January and February, I decided to sacrifice financially. And then, well, it was so amazing because then, Corona came, and then we didn't really have to use that much money anyways. So I made the sacrifice with the finances, and I also made the sacrifice with my time. What are you doing with your time that the Lord is telling you to sacrifice His time for? So I decided to sacrifice my time. I'll wake up early in the morning to study. And then also my son was, there was homeschool. So then I would wake up early in the morning, do my study, cover my chapter for that particular day. And then after, I would help my son with homeschool. When I'm at work, then I would flip it around. I would go to work, obviously. Probably, if it's possible for me to do a little bit of reading at work, I would. If it's not, then I just work, and then when I get back home, I have to help my son with homeschool and then try to do some studies before I get really, really tired. So I had to make the sacrifice, and I did that for 3 months. I believe it was 3 months. So I did my research, how long it would take for us to cover studies for the CAPM exam. It was like 3 months. Well, it depends on the individual, of course, from the research. But I decided I was gonna push for 3 months, and I was ready for the exam. I revised, I studied, I did practice questions. Let me tell you, I sacrificed, because you know what? Faith without works is dead. Faith without works is dead. So I decided to not just believe that I was gonna pass. Even if I believe I'm gonna pass, I'm just sitting there doing absolutely nothing with my life, then you're not gonna go anywhere. So I decided to not only believe that I was gonna pass, but also I pushed towards that mark. And then I pushed hard, I studied my content, I reviewed, I revised, I reviewed, I revised, and prepared my mind mentally. And then bam, I decided to do my exams in the month of August 2020. And I thought a lot worked out for me. And I knew that God was in this so much, because during the same week of my exams, let me tell you, the enemy came to attack me. I was under spiritual attack during the same week of my exams. During that same week, my son fell sick, like out of nowhere. He felt sick, like really, like sick, and then it just it's like this is like a story for like a whole other time about my son's health. But then the enemy attacked his health during that same week, and then I just broke down, because it brought me back to that time when he was really sick and hospitalized. And then let me tell, like I swear, like the enemy waits for certain times in your life when he knows exactly what to hit you with. So that really broke me down really, really, really hard. And then I just felt like I'm just gonna push back the exam. I didn't feel that I was able to pursue that exam, to go ahead and pursue my goal of doing the exam on the 1st of August. And you know what? My mom, I remember my mom and my sister prayed for me. It was just so much. It was a lot. And then they prayed for me, they covered me in prayer. We decided that, hey, that you're gonna do the exam no matter what. We're gonna pray for you. The devil is a liar. We're just rebuking the devil and all of his plans. But through it all, I saw the Lord's hand over me, and the Lord kept me, and He kept me. And let me tell you, there was never a moment during the time that I was preparing for that exam. I don't know what the Lord has in store for me, but whatever the Lord has in store for me, it has to be great. But I have seen the Lord work tremendously for me during that period. So I went, and now throughout the week, now I'm preparing. Now my computer went down, but the Lord also ministered to me different things. That yes, the attack of my son might have been the devil trying to mess around and trying to break me down and stuff. The attack with my laptop, which I was supposed to use because I did a proctored exam, then my computer all of a sudden, even the week before, began to mess up and stuff. But I thank the Lord, because had that not happened, I would have used the computer, and I would not have been able to use the computer because of that's a whole other story. Like my computer is it has like a line on the screen which prevents me from reading the information, so I would have not have been able to use my computer, well, to read the questions properly if I were to have used my computer. So that was like a blessing in disguise, that the Lord allowed my computer to begin to malfunction at that time. So I used my dad's computer to do my exam, and then I went in to do my exam, and I prayed. I went and prayed up. I remember coming into my office. I did my exam at my office, and I prayed and I prayed and I worshiped, and the Lord encouraged me, or I say ministered to my heart, to just worship him, because it's already done. It's already done. Like the victory is already won. And I went in and I praised and I worshiped God and I thanked God, and I declared a victory. I knew I had already won. Now I had to sit the exam, because I did not sit the exam as yet, but I sat the exam, and I cannot say that it was all peace. Like I know like there was a spirit of peace, but our flesh builds up, and then we get all fearful and stuff. So So then I sat down and I was like really like I got some really difficult questions, I must say. But God, but God helped me for this exam. I sweated, cold sweat, like I was nervous. At one point, I thought that I would have not finished the exam, but but that was just the trick of the enemy. But you know what? It pushed me to answer questions. I'm like answering questions like like on the spot, and just pushing for, and I did not give up because I could. I think at one time I was so stressed. At the time that I thought that I would have not finished the exam, I became so stressed, and then all of a sudden it's like I started hearing those demonic thoughts. Give up, you're not gonna be able to make it, you're not gonna finish on time, so just give up, Donna. I mean, you don't even, the questions are hard. And then I'm like, then oh my gosh, I began to cry. I began to cry, and I'm like, and I know that somebody is at the other side of their screen looking at me, probably wondering what is wrong with this chick. Like, just do the exam. But I was under so much pressure for that time period of my life. The week, the whole process was pressure, and sitting down there finally to do my final exam, and the devil is tormenting me, sending all those negative thoughts. Oh, you cannot do it, give up, just give up anyways. And I'm just like, no, and I'm crying because I don't want to give up. I've come this far, I cannot give up now. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm just asking God I'm just praying to God, and I'm just binding and rebuking those thoughts, and I keep pushing through and pushing through until I realized that all along I had enough time. So after I completed the exams, it was like 150 questions. Then I went back to review those questions that I skipped, and to see if I could answer them. And I just continued to ask the Lord to help me, and the Lord helped me so tremendously. It was a trying time in my life, but I saw the Lord's hand from the beginning, being somebody who was a rookie in project management, to where I, well, to the end of my exam. So I thank God, because had it not been for God who pushed me, or who used the consultant to really push me to come to the class, I would have probably still be desiring to pursue studies in project management. And yes, it may just be, the associate program, but there are doors, and there are doors that I broke down that I don't even realize in the spiritual realm, that are broken down because of my decision to walk in faith. Even if I didn't have the money financially, even if I'm like wondering where am I gonna get the time, and God stopped the world from operating so I could have time to study. And I just saw the Lord worked through my son being healed. Like my son was just better. I mean, again, like I said, that this is for a whole other story, but I have seen the Lord hands over my life tremendously during this time period. And I want to encourage anybody who might be wondering, if I should pursue that particular major. I'm gonna tell you, go ahead and do it once you know the Lord is calling you to do it, because the blessings that are in store for those who walk in the obedience of God is amazing. The Lord is going to provide for you financially, like He did for myself. He's going to provide for you with the time, so that you can get the time on your hands to study. He's going to break down all the strongholds of the enemy, and He's going to fight for you. Exodus chapter 14 and verse 14, the Lord will fight for you. Just trust in God. Remember, even if you believe and you don't operate in works, faith without works is dead. So even if you believe, okay, I'm gonna one day be a this or be a that, be a doctor, be a nurse, be a researcher, be work in technology, even if you believe all of those things and you don't actually pursue, walk out what God is telling you to do, begin to write the plan. It will just remain something that you believe that's possible. It will just believe it remain a dream. So I want to encourage you that whatever the Lord has placed on your heart to pursue, don't hold back, don't linger like I did for the long period of time, but just walk in faith. Just believe that the Lord who has called you to something is going to be with you while you are going through it, and even after and even before. He's gonna be with you forever. He promises in His word that He's never gonna leave you, neither forsake you. So I just want to encourage you to Just pursue what the Lord is calling you to pursue, and don't give up. Keep pushing, even though there may be times when you may be frustrated and you may be wondering how it's going to work out. The Lord has already worked everything out. Just trust in Him. Trust in the process because He loves you. I know my story was long, but I really hope that it encouraged you. And if you would like to hear more of my testimony and more of the way that the Lord has come for me supernaturally, just comment down below and let me know what you think. Share your testimony yourself and tell me how the Lord has come for you in a way that was supernatural. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will provide more content because the Lord keeps, uploading things and downloading things in my spirit to share. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.